Recording's not going on. So welcome to the three flavors of Vedanta, Advaita, Advaita, and Vishishtadvaita. Our special guest is none other than Sri Krishna Kashyap, and our special co-host is Shilpa Agarwal, Srimati Shilpa Agarwal, who's going to be helping out HUA on these webinars in the future. But today's webinar, we're going to dig into the question of, are Advaita, Dvaita, and Vishishtadvaita mutually incompatible and ultimately irreconcilable, or are they simply three different perspectives on the same ultimate reality? Well, of course, we're going to get into what Advaita, Dvaita, and Vishishtadvaita is. Krishna Ji does a great exploration of that. But does the diversity and plurality of perspectives and sampradayas expressive of Hindu thought emerge from an underlying unity? We're going to get into that as well. In this webinar, Sri Krishna Kashyap is going to get into these questions, focusing on the three flavors of Vedanta, and introduce the course he will be teaching in the fall at Hindu University of America. So Krishna Ji, it is my pleasure to have you join us today. Looking for... sorry, just looking for... Shilpa Ji, you want to give a quick introduction of yourself and how you're plugged in real quick to our audience, and I'm going to introduce Krishna Ji.
All right. Thanks, Ankur Ji. Hi, everyone. I'm just here today shadowing Ankur Ji. I've been invited to co-host webinars in the future, so here I am. I am a doctoral student at HUA in the post-colonial department under Kundan Ji. And so, yeah, I've done post-colonial work at UCLA, and now I'm doing it here at HUA, and it's been an amazing experience.
Great.
More on my background later.
Yeah, we're gonna have a special one on that. Thank you, Shilpa Ji, for joining us. And now, Sri Krishna Kashyap Ji, thank you again for joining us on this webinar. Krishna Ji is actually retired, lives in India, but he worked in the USA for almost 40 years in various areas of technology and business. He's devoted decades to the study of Vedanta, Sanskrit, and yoga with many traditional teachers, including Shrikesh Varadachar, Sri Sampat Ayanagar, and several others. Maybe you're going to get into your parampara and your lineage and how that affects your perspective. Krishna Ji has focused on the true nature of Vedanta philosophy, highlighting the close relationship between the three main systems of Vedanta, namely Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, and Dvaita, by exposing major misconceptions regarding them. So Krishna Ji, let me hand it to you to get us started, and we'll take questions and enjoy the conversation. Yeah, Krishna Ji, let me hand it over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Ankur Ji, and thank you, Shilpa Ji, for coming on the panel. Excellent. Okay. What we're going to do is we are going to introduce the subject. So I'll be teaching Advaita, Dvaita, and Vishishtadvaita, and also try to reconcile between these three systems, if it's possible. Great. Then let me show you a presentation. So the way I want to start this is I just give you a structure of what this course will be, why are we doing it, and why Vedanta to start with, right? And then open it up for questions. Okay, let me share my screen. Is this visible? And you can hear me, right? I will be doing full screen. I just want to make sure my background noise doesn't enter. It's raining in Bangalore.
Okay.
At least some portions of Bangalore. Let me get my headset.
While you do that, let me just give a couple more people who joined us. Maheshji from Washington, D.C., Rushabh from Ontario, Canada, Jyotsna Ji from Bay Area, Babulal Gupta Ji from Bloomington, Illinois, Kumuji from Boston, and early Ganesh Chaturthi. Welcome, welcome. All right.
Excellent, excellent. Nice to have all of you here. So let me, I'm sharing this, and let me go to, just a second. Oops, just a second. I guess you can see my screen. 3 flavors of Vedanta: Advaita, Advaita, and Vishishtadvaita. Okay. So let me give you a brief history of who I am. I was born in a traditional Vedanta family. And then I was drilled into a particular type of Vedanta called Vishishtadvaita Vedanta when I grew up. So just like how parents push people, right? And when I was about 18 or 19, I met my friend's father, and I don't want to name him. So he was very influential in the way I think. He told me that whatever Advaita or Vishishtadvaita Vedanta you are following is wrong. And your Gurujis and your main acharyas are only at a low level. Advaita Vedanta is the top. And those sages and Vedantists are at a very high level. They're in the 7th level. You guys are at the 3rd level. At that time, it bothered me very much. Then I said, okay, let me just, let's go back and try to study anything. I went to my grandfather's brother and asked him to teach me Bhagavad Gita. So I just studied Bhagavad Gita under him for about a few years. Then when I came to the US and I was working in the Bell Labs and then thinking about astronomy, astrology, technology, and all those things, I suddenly became an atheist. I thought that, in every country, they come up with some Vedanta, the Mesopotamian civilization, the Egyptian pyramid kind of civilization, whatever civilization, every civilization comes up with some kind of a weird thing about after death, about spirit, about all those things. They are not really true. And what I see, I should think that that is real. What I see, what I experiment with, that is real. If I see through a telescope, yeah, I see something, right? So I became very scientific in that way. But I was very worried as to, do you think that our Vedantins, the great rishis, were all just people with imagination who wrote books? Or is there any truth to Vedanta? Is there anything real? What happens to us after death? What is before death? Who are we? All these kinds of questions came to my mind. And I was very upset that how can I be coming from a very traditional Vedanta background, turned out to be an atheist. So then started my search. I had to do a lot of meditation and a lot of other things to get my grounding. Then I started, even before that, I had studied under different acharyas. I will just name a few: Dr. N.S. Anantharangacharya, N.T. Srinivasangacharya, Ananta Krishna Shastri, Mahamopadhyaya, K.S. Varadachar. That started later, of course, but the thing is, I studied under different acharyas. And recently also, I studied under Professor Mahamopadhyaya, Koroda Subramaniamji, Vyakarana and other things. So I'd like to keep, and I study with Alvar Swamin, who is also a teacher in HUA. Often, I just keep on talking to him all the time and learning from him. So studies is something which I like, and I like to know more. And there's almost no end to it, right? So the question comes up that there are 3 schools. So what is Advaita, what is Dvaita, and Vishishtadvaita? Let me just quickly fast forward here, because I didn't really wanted to discuss this 3 systems in an order. But okay, let's just show this particular slide here. Think about Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, and Dvaita as 2 different things. This is probably a wrong slide. Hold on a second. I don't have a slide for it. I will just discuss it from my memory. It's easier that way. Think about this. Dvaita is easy, right? All of us, the individual jivatmas, are unique. They are separate. So we are different from the creator, who is known as Ishvara or Hari in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. And then matter is obviously around us and with us. Matter is different. So we are all different from matter. We are essentially different from each other. So I am different. My true self, that is Jivatma, is different from the self of everybody else here, and also the animals and the devas and the deities and different beings. And we will always be different. We'll never be together. And so having known the world and universe and understanding everything and finding no happiness here, doing meditation, doing bhakti, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, and all these methodologies, people will reach Brahman but they will never merge into Brahman. And that Brahman is Hari, and continuous service, devotion is the only path here and hereafter in Dvaita system. On the other hand, in Advaita system, all of us may be different. Look at this point, we are all different. We are doing different things. Everything, there is Bheda in the universe. Bheda means difference. But once the ignorance goes away, we are all under ignorance. That's why we see this duality. When the ignorance goes away, there will be only one thing left. Nothing else remains. All this universe goes away. And they gave a wonderful example of a simple rope and snake. Suppose there's a rope sitting somewhere in a corner and you don't have much light there. With a little bit light, you look at the rope, and maybe because of some reason, maybe some air or a fan or something like that, the rope is moving a little bit. Then suddenly you think that it's a snake. You get so upset and you run away, you start shouting and say, bring something to kill the snake and all those things. All the fear, anger, everything comes up. Once you take a torch and light it up and look at the snake, what you thought as a snake, it's just a rope. Then you cool down and say, oh, what is this? This is just a rope. So you become calm. Similarly, this universe erroneously is perceived as different. People have different, nature, money, education, so many things, competition, everything. This is all in ignorance. Once the ignorance goes away, what is underneath is only one thing. So Advaita says there's only one reality, Brahman. All else is superimposed on that underlying reality. That's what Advaita says. Vishishtadvaita says something in between these two extremes. Dvaita, on one hand, is totally difference between everything, unique, and it will stay different all the time, even in the state of ultimate samam bonam moksha. In Advaita, ignorance is the cause of all this bondage. When ignorance goes away, there's only one thing. There's no multiplicity. So Vishishtadvaita is somewhere in between, let's put it there. Let's not go deep into Vishishtadvaita right now. So now different acharyas have supported different systems of thought. Now let me get back to this slide. So if somebody asks, are these three schools reconcilable? Because they are coming from different ends. One is absolute separation, one is absolute difference, one is absolute unity, and something in between. People say it's not reconcilable. So for generations and generations, the Advaiti people have separate groups, the Dvaita people have separate groups, and Vishishtadvaita people have separate groups, and several people follow other systems too, so why are we considering only three matas, Advaita, Advaita, and Vishishtadvaita? Because these three are uniquely separate. They are at the end of the spectrum and the middle of the spectrum. The end is complete Dvaita difference, complete unity on the other end, and something in between. If you think about other schools like Chaitanya Sampradaya, which is Achintya Bheda, Shuddha Dvaita of Vallabhacharya, or any other kind of systems, even other systems like Shaivism, Shivadvaita, and several other things, they have some kind of a relationship between this fundamental idea of three schools, Dvaita, Advaita, and Vishishtadvaita. So considering the schools will make it easier for us to understand philosophy. In fact, this term called Trimata. Trimata means three views. For the Advaita, Advaita, and Vishishtadvaita is a famous term. People say these schools cannot be reconcilable. We have to disagree. That's it. But if you think about it, most people may even think like that, they believe in it, and they probably would follow only one school of thought and never even bother about any other school of thought. In fact, they would consider reading, Vishishtadvaita, people may think that studying Advaita is wrong. We should not even listen to Advaita. And some people believe in it that way. And some Dvaitins say that, oh my God, Advaita, you shouldn't even come close to Advaita. Take it out of your mind. So this interscholastic debate, sectarian differences are there. There may be a reason, because one person, one system, that is people belonging to one system, may not understand other systems well, or they may not go deep enough to understand all systems, or it's so difficult to understand one system of thought like Dvaita or Advaita or Vishishtadvaita. There are like hundreds and hundreds of books written in each of these systems. It may be very difficult for us to put our arms together, all the three schools, and say this is what it is. It may be very difficult. Also, most people are stuck in the rat race of life, or not interested in this at all. They said, why would you waste your time? Focus on something which will get you some money or some other value. Or some people may be interested in painting or swimming or some other thing, right? So we have people of different kinds, obviously. And people have strong belief system based on the families they come up or these communities they live in. So that is why they don't want to get into other systems of thought. And they might also have a strong sadhana or practice methods in each of the systems they believe in, because they were born in it. And that will give a strength in their own system of thought and conviction, which will not allow them to look otherwise or look outside. So personally, life is short, right? You only can meet so many people in your life, learn from so many people in your life, because our life is moving fast and it's not stopping anywhere, right? The same water you can't touch the same water in a flowing river, because the water from behind comes to that point immediately. So I studied under different acharyas, asked tough questions. And then 15 years back, I met Sri K.S. Varadachar, whom I call Sri KSV. And he was very, very knowledgeable. And he used to come and tell me, ask me any question in the Buddhik Kshetra or anything in the Shastras. I can answer that. So I asked him a lot of questions. And he said that I don't know anything about many, many, many things. Then came a rewiring of my brain, where he really told me what the real true aspects of Advaita are. What is Vishishtadvaita? What is Dvaita? He went in much, much, much more deeper level than I could go earlier with any other person, or maybe that's also because of my maturity increased after learning under so many acharyas. And I met Sri KSV, and he opened up my ideas to a different zone altogether. Okay, I'm sure there are lots of other great scholars out there, and don't forget to meet them. Don't forget to talk to them, because knowledge will not stay. Human beings come and human beings go. And if knowledge is lost, it's lost forever. So we need to pick that information up. I'm also looking for new teachers, by the way. There's no end to learning. So what I personally feel is, to learn three systems, you need to open up your mind and say, there should be some value with other systems of thought. So you should get out of your system, or try to understand your system in depth, question it in depth. Just don't believe in somebody said this and I just believe in it. That's just one level. That will not give you conviction. Conviction comes when you question it. And they call it a stuna nikhanana nyaya. Suppose you want to put a pole in the ground. After you put the pole, dig it and put it inside the ground, you shake it up and then make sure it is really strong, and then add some more strength, strengthening stuff, and then make concrete or something like that to make it very strong. Similarly, you need to shake up your personal convictions. Just not say, yes, oh, he said so, I agree. Oh, she said so, I agree. Oh, he's a great person in our community, he said so. If you don't question anything, it will not work. Your conviction will not be strong. And life also teaches you conviction. In life, you find so many different situations, good, bad, ugly, and all these kind of situations. And that will also strengthen your idea of what is the true goal in life. Okay, so one should not be a frog in a well. They have to step out and find out what exactly is true. Maybe the well the frog was living in the first place was the best place in the world, but inside the well, the frog is not sure. So you need to be sure. And different systems of thought really are not against each other. It's like a river. You can see the river from this point, from some other point, from other vantage point, or you can fly over in a plane and look at the river. The same river appears different from different perspectives. That we need to keep in our mind. That way we can appreciate Vedanta as a single system of thought, even though there are 3 different views in it, or more different views in it. And now, this is true even in this visible universe where you can touch, feel. There are so many different studies. They're not against each other. For example, physics is not against chemistry. Chemistry is not against biology. So from material, if you add life, then you say it's biology. And psychology would be something related to mind. Sociology is something related to human beings. All these 3 systems of education, subjects, can be juxtaposed and live together. They don't have to oppose each other. Similarly, in physics, classical mechanics, quantum field theory, relativistic mechanics, they all apply to different situations where the size is too small or too large, or the speed is too small, or the speed is too high. So similarly, Advaita, Advaita, and Vishishtadvaita could be something like coexisting systems, not against each other. So this could be true. So you have to really be open to that view and think clearly. Now, most people say Advaita, Advaita, and Vishishtadvaita are non-intersecting bubbles which are nothing to do with each other. That's how they say. But there are a lot of commonalities. Shastras, the subjects, the source material is common. Karma theory, and jiva, the concept of jiva, the concept of bhakti or devotion, and number of other things like the nature of the goal, nature of the person who is reaching the goal, and all these problems like how do I get there to the goal? What are the obstacles on the way for me, which are stopping me from reaching the goal? Or the perfect happiness. What is happiness? What is the point of Vedanta? People say, oh, there's another subject. Not true. Vedanta is dedicated to find you happiness. Since we don't seem to be happy with anything, that's nature, right? We get something, after a couple of days, oh my God, I want to get something else. Oh my God, I got cheated. Somebody got a better deal than me. So this is how we constantly look for more and more and more, because we don't find permanent happiness. And Vedanta is a subject which helps you find permanent happiness, ultimate bliss. That is what Vedanta is about. So this subject is not just casual, I want to know this, I want to know this. It applies to every one of us, every one of us. So that's why it's an important subject which we want to focus on. But are these non-intersecting? Not true. Let me show you here. Vedanta texts, mainly there are 3 texts, Prasthanatraya. Prasthanatraya means the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and the Brahma Sutras. These are the three texts which are like three pillars of Vedanta, which explain the core of Vedanta. And if you look at the three different views, Shankaracharya's view, Ramanujacharya's view, and Madhvacharya's view, they're intersecting. There's a lot of commonality between all these systems. And I've just mentioned the Bhashyas on Gita. Actually, any Vedantic text, they have a lot of commonality. And that we can see in this class. I'll give you some kind of a structure of how this class would be. Think about the source material. The 14 sources of knowledge, which include the Vedas, Mimamsa, Nyaya, Puranas, Dharmashastras, and also the 6 supporting angas like Chandas, Shiksha, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Jyotisha, Kalpa, and all these. And these Dharmashastras basically are the Itihasa and Purana like Mahabharata, Ramayana, and Bhagavad Gita is a small part of Mahabharata. And there are a number of agamas or the ritualistic texts which give you practical ways to get to the highest goal. So if you look at all these things, there are 14 sources of knowledge that's common pretty much to Vishishtadvaita, Advaita, and Advaita. So from the common source, they have slightly used different views. So they are not separate religions. There are no wars or battles between these three systems. Maybe arguments, maybe strong arguments could be, but it's not. It should be taken in more like a subject argument, like maybe how you argue in any of your technology fields, like computer science should be understood this way or that way, or even like a theory of light. Is light a particle or a wave or a both? So you do have differences of opinion in any science. In that way, we should consider Vishishtadvaita, Advaita, and Advaita. Okay, and in fact, they're talking about something invisible like Jivatma, like consciousness, mind, Paramatma, or the Brahman, which is the conscience of everybody, or which is the controller of everything. So we're talking about things that are not visible. We cannot touch, feel. So even in science and technology where you can touch and feel, you have difference of opinion. But in this vast space of unknown where we cannot touch and feel, even though we exist, even though we know we exist, we cannot see who we are. So in this kind of subject, in this topic, regarding this topic, there could be difference of opinion, and that's natural. So we should understand what exactly there would be. What are the differences? The course involves, like, first lecture would be historical introduction to Vedanta, Vidyasthanas, and Prasthanatraya, overview of these three systems in one class, and deep dive Advaita in 2 classes, deep dive Dvaita in 2 classes, deep dive Vishishtadvaita in 2 classes, and then reconciliation between these 3 schools, 3 classes. That's how it would be organized. So it will be like even 11 classes, I think. And it'll be like the structure of the class itself is 1 hour per week lecture, 30 minutes question answers. Usually it may go longer than 1 hour. It could be 2 hours or a little bit longer sometimes. You may not want to stay for the whole class. Maybe you have other things to do, but it will be recorded anyway. So you can always listen to it if you miss a portion of the class. And quizzes will be almost every week if people are interested. Some people said that I don't like to have too much of load. I can't really deal with so much of studies. I have a lot of other things to take care of. So they may not want to do quizzes. Quizzes are only, and quizzes may not even be graded. I don't think quizzes will be graded. So grading will be only for a topic paper at the end of the quarter. It'll be, the subject will be given earlier. Brief overview of Advaita. I'm sorry, brief overview of Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, and Dvaita, and how to reconcile between these 3 systems of Vedanta. Particularly, the reconciliation between these 3 systems of Vedanta is the core important aspect. And the brief overview is only to figure out how you have understood these 3 systems of thought. And this paper is like 4 or 5 pages or whatever you can write. This will be graded, and attendance is very important. Only when you, so people may attend all the classes and may get better grades, even if they don't write the final paper. So it's skewed in a different way. The way grading is skewed different way, because if you sit down in the class and participate in the group discussion and also the lecture, there's a lot of knowledge you will get. And I have a couple of people, I think, who are attending today this webinar, who might have taken one of my courses earlier. They will tell you if they're available now. In fact, if they need a special link, I think the organizers can send you a special link to come up. Oh, Ramesh is here. Thank you, Ramesh. Very good. So that's one thing. I have some additional slides which we don't need. Why don't we break for question answers? Ankurji, you can take over and go to the next page.
I have given Rameshji the opportunity to speak as he's taken a course, your course before. Maybe now's a good time to just let him add on right now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Rameshji. And if you have any other students, just put your hand up in the attendee window or whatever, and I will give you the opportunity to speak. And we'll get into your Q&A, your questions. Please put them in the Q&A box. It makes it easier for us to go through them than in the chat. Kundanji is the only one with a question so far. But before we get there, Rameshji, go ahead.
Namaste, Ankurji. Namaste, Krishnaji.
Namaste.
So I have taken this course by Krishnaji the previous quarter. I mean, the last part of the course I could not attend successfully as I was in India. But one thing I would say is before taking Krishnaji's course, we have a small group that we started in Bay Area about purposefully took people from all three sampradayas and formed a group, and we started discussing, and these discussions were going more in the direction of people taking things to heart and trying to prove the other person wrong, and taking this route where you take certain quotes from Upanishads or Gita and try to prove that, okay, Advaita is right, or some people are arguing Advaita is right, some people from Madhva Sampradaya. And we were going in this direction, and we were taking pure translation and not going by any bhashya. And trying to say that, oh, it indeed says that, and we were going in this direction. Actually, after I joined Krishnaji's course for the first time, I started looking at, are they really different? Or try to understand or read at least what the other viewpoint has to say. So yeah, that way, I mean, it was indeed an eye-opening course. The Gita, I have never looked at it from that point of view. For me, definitely, this course helped a lot. And the students are also pretty interesting in the course. The way the questions were asked, students are also pretty knowledgeable. The people who took the course along with me, I learned a lot from them as well. And Krishnaji, even though there are some times when the discussions went pretty hard, but Krishnaji was patient enough to answer even some provocative questions. And thanks a lot, Krishnaji. I sometimes go back even now because the recordings are available. Especially when I have to talk to kids, it has actually immensely helped me. I do talk to high school kids here, and sometimes when I'm not very clear about the meaning of a particular shloka, sometimes I go back and refer to these videos. Thanks to HUA for keeping these videos even after the course is done. Thanks a lot.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rameshji, for sharing and your support of Hindu University of America, taking courses. Rameshji, solid supporter of HUA. Thank you, and appreciate your feedback. We also have Yashji. Yash, I guess, is also taking a course with you. Is that
yeah, Okay, how do I unmute myself?
You are unmuted, Yashi. I got you.
Oh. Okay. Well, I enrolled. Actually, Krishnaji has just explained his life. My life is exactly opposite. I have not studied, read anything, and I can't. And I have difficulty even in sitting in classes because my is that I just get the concept, what the concept is, and then I go to sleep. My drive has been only single founded that who are we, where we came from, and why all these wars take place. That's all. And I am 82. And okay, I don't want to go through the whole history, but finally I realized Chinmayaji, he came up with a chart called BMI chart. And that to me is adequate to describe whole Vedanta. And when I say whole Vedanta, what I mean is that is the basic structure of universe right from beginning. And then every question can be answered from this one chart. We speak different languages. That is my understanding. So I wanted to discuss actually with Krishnaji. Okay, and you said that you have been at Bell Labs. I am familiar with that. I was recruited by one of the authors of systems theory in 1968 to do PhD. And since then, I started developing my own chart, and I'm very, very familiar with Bell Labs. And I knew a lot of people because that was the prime position to go to after you do your PhD in computer sciences or math or anything. So what I'm saying is that that I would like to communicate with you directly, very briefly. I won't take much time. I would like to send you my thoughts in very few pages and see, am I wrong anywhere? That's all. Is it possible?
Offline, we can do that, I think.
Yes. So I would like to get your email. Okay, so that I can communicate with you.
Sure.
And I promise you, I won't take too much time. I won't
No,
bore you.
offline we can spend more time. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so thank you for that, Yash Ji. And again, Hindu University of America is a platform for you to engage with folks like Krishna Ji. But let's keep our questions or statements. And then offline, there's so much more work to be done. We're not going to get into everything in an hour and a half webinars. So Yash Ji, thank you for that little insight. Okay. Krishna Ji has said he'll follow up. And hopefully we get a blog out of it, right? So we're doing so much at a Hindu University of America where we want to share these ideas. We want to get it out there. So appreciate you, Yashi. And questions are starting to pile up in the Q&A box. We got about 5. Suresh Ji, if you, is Suresh Behera also a student? Has he taken a class?
Yeah. Yes. He
All
said
right,
he would be talking today. Yes.
Great.
Yes. Uncle,
thank you,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Suresh. I'm based out of Chicago. I have my own agency. I did a 2 course with Krishna Ji. And before joining the Hindu University course, I was a devotee and doing a lot of other scripture, like studied other scripture like Upanishad, the Bhagavad Gita, many other. But one of the, like I always get a one point of view. Wherever you go, you get a one point of taste or view. So it is really, I think there is nothing exists so far in my knowledge where I can get the whole point of view or get, it's not in the conflict situation. So after once I did a complete courses with Krishna Ji, there is a lot more clarity in my mind, and I really don't like confused in my mind. And also same thing, I have noticed many of my peers, many other people, what we came from tradition, history, books, and everywhere, it bring a lot more confusion. That's what I felt. But after joining the Krishna's class, it's bring me the very clarity. on my accent, clarity on my thoughts. And also, I'm felt so blessed. The person like Krishnaji with so extensive knowledge and also direct knowledge gained from the source Acharya, which is pretty rare. I think I don't have that kind of access, but I felt so blessed and I felt really great of having the access of this knowledge and also sharing the information from Krishnaji. So I would strongly recommend each one of you, especially it brings you a lot of more clarity. And as a Sanatan Dharmi or as a Hindu philosophy aspirer or seeker, it's more important having a clarity than anything else. That's all I wanted to say, like 2 cents. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Suresh.
And Suresh, you have access now because of what we're building here at Hindu University of America and these free webinars and the courses. With that, let me just put in the chat details to the course. So there's the link. You can click it. It's going to be on Sundays between 10 a.m. Eastern and 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. That's 7:30 p.m. in India. So still good. Starting October 9th. We still have some time. We still have about 131 people on this. So let me just launch this quick poll. Are you interested in enrolling in the 3 flavors of Vedanta? That's the course. If you want to ask a question before you give us an answer, that is fine. But if you already know, please put it in there. We've got about 7 more questions in the Q&A box. Let's get through them. Kundanji starts us off with a kind of an interesting question about the claim that Buddhism, no self, soul, and Hindu soul, self, oppose each other. So the idea of reconciliation between different ideas. And I think that's an interesting one to get us started with. What do you think, Krishnaji?
A very good question, Kundanji. Great question, really. You really identified an important difference between Buddhism and Hinduism in general, Vedic systems. If you think about it, what Buddhism states in general, right? There is something called the concept of anatmavada. Anatta, they called anatta, means no self. There is nothing permanent. There's what we think that we are is there's just a combination of 5 elements or 4 elements, like they don't accept akasha. So Prithvi, Ap, Tejo, Vayu. That means matter, that is earth, air, wind, fire, just that. And we're just that. It's just a combination. There's nothing but almost this modern scientific theory that there is no self. There's just combination of matter within us, right? That's how they have stated. But if you think about it, somebody said to Buddha, oh, after we perfect ourselves, if we can isolate ourselves from the external world and entanglements and purify our mind completely, and so what do we get? Buddha said you can reach nirvana. Wow, nirvana, what is that? Where there is no problems, where there is no sadness, difficulty, pain. There's nothing like that. You're free from everything there in nirvana. Then somebody asked Buddha, is that state of nirvana permanent, eternal? Wow, here comes a problem. If Buddha says yes, that means he's accepting there is some entity or some concept called nirvana which is eternal. If he says no, there are other problems. He kept quiet. Buddha did not answer 14 such questions, totally 14 questions. And it is known as the silence of Buddha regarding certain aspects. So Buddhism externally as a principle, as a concept and everything, yeah, you can say there is no soul concept. But at the end of the day, a Buddhist follower will know if nirvana is said to be not constant, why would somebody even meditate? So there is this connection between the Vedic eternal soul concept and their concept of no soul. There is a connect. you have to go much deeper to really figure this out. I can't answer this because of lack of time and lack of complete knowledge. Hope this.
Reconciliation, that big kind of overarching concept, it carries through so many things. Thank you, Krishna ji. Again, please put your questions in the Q&A box. I see some people writing some stuff in the chat, but when who is it, Godanji says he's taken other courses at HUA, I got to give you a shout out too. Thank you, Godanji. Question is from Prashantji. Would this course lead to advanced studies in reconciliation between the different schools of Vedanta?
Excellent question. Yes. See, if you think about it, this is a 1 quarter course where we introduce these subjects and clearly try to understand from a very high level the reconciliation between 3 systems of thought. Actually, we can do an entire course on just Advaita, entire course on Dvaita, entire course on Vishishtadvaita, and an entire course on reconciliation. So much of material is there in all these. It's just like, you look at a bird's eye view up in the sky, then come down closer and take a 10,000 foot level view and come closer and take a 1,000 foot view, right? So as you go deeper and deeper, you can get a different, more concrete level of reconciliation between these 3 schools of Vedanta. My Guruji has specialized in that. In fact, he has written books on reconciliation in different, there are thousands and thousands of books, of pages of books with all this information.
I'm very interested in the course. I have a few questions around that. Can I only take this course alone from HUA? Yeah, I think Krishna ji, you have other places where you're giving lectures and maybe you're teaching in other places, but this course on Advaita, Vishishtadvaita is only offered through Hindu University of America. I say okay. Krishna ji saying, no, you're not teaching anywhere else?
No, actually, this particular course I'm not teaching anywhere else, only Hindu University.
Only at Hindu University of America, very good. Are there follow-on courses that build on this course? Right, and sure. So as HUA is building and developing the longer course schedule, it's up to our own faculty. Krishna ji, I'm curious too. What are you thinking about following up?
The thing is, what we are going to see in the next course, we focus on the Bhagavad Gita and see 3 views of 3 Vedantic views on the Bhagavad Gita, which I finished recently last quarter, before this quarter. So that would be an extension of this course, because the first course, in October, would just deal with the Advaita, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita with an overview, right? And then that would include treatment of statements from Brahma Sutra, statements from Upanishads, statements from Bhagavad Gita, and so on. But in the next course, it will be concentrated on the Bhagavad Gita and go much deeper into each of the Acharyas' own explanations and bhashyas, going towards understanding the Sanskrit behind it. And the next question here is, do I need to have some Sanskrit knowledge to get the concepts that are covered here? Actually, you don't need that much of a Sanskrit knowledge, because I'll try to explain every word. But on the other hand, if you have some Sanskrit knowledge, you may be well positioned. In some ways, some people who have mother tongue, like a Malayali mother tongue, or maybe Bengali mother tongue, or a Hindi mother tongue, or something, they may know Sanskrit already indirectly. Kannada, particularly, Kannada Telugu has got a lot of Sanskrit in it. So that might help you understand the concept quite well. It depends on each person. Some people, if suppose somebody, I have one person from Brazil took this course, either this course or the other course, and the person, I was surprised. That person had to put some effort, and definitely he's insisted that I have to explain every word of Sanskrit I use, and I did. Every word of Sanskrit I tried to explain to him, and he had a little bit of difficulty. But believe it or not, when he submitted his paper, he was in the top 5 in the class. His paper was excellent. So I've seen people do very well with extremely little knowledge of Sanskrit.
For those questions. And again, as Hindu University of America, our courses are through our learning management system. You get your HUA email ID at hua.edu, links, Zoom links, recordings, assignments, reading, all of that is easy to access. Krishnaji, it looks like you're reading some of the questions yourself.
Yes.
If you want to pick up one.
Yeah, the next question from Pratap is about, I think there's no difference between these three schools of thought, just three paths to reach the same reality. Is it not the right way to think? Okay, so it all depends on how deep you understand these three schools of thought before you make a decision, right? Each schools of thought you need to understand a lot in great depth. If you already understand it in great depth, then why there are three schools of thought? Why can't there be only one school of thought? So you need to understand how to answer these questions. And what you're saying is not wrong at all. There are three paths to reach the same reality. It's just not the path. Conceptually also, there are different views. So you're right in a way, but knowing that it helps to know the details, because the devil is in the details.
Right. Thank you for that, Pratapji. If you haven't filled out the poll, please do. 55. We still have about 120 people with us. Thank you for staying on for the Q&A section. Please do fill out the poll, even if it's a no. That way, maybe Pragyaji does not give you a call afterwards. But Shridarji's, do you want to take Shridarji's question?
Sure.
You want me to read it real quick? All models are wrong, but yeah, you got it.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Yeah.
All models are wrong, but some are useful. Is this the appropriate attitude one must have about, or one must hold towards these three schools of thought as well? And if the answer is yes, then the difference in the models must be on account of the differences in their respective target audience. Is this how it is? And what do the respective schools define as the prerequisites to become eligible to study them?
Okay, let me take one question at a time. All models are wrong, but some are useful. It looks a little bit pessimistic to me when you say all models are wrong. That was not the intent of these models. All models try to approximate truth, and truth approximation is not always perfectly possible. So taking it more positively, they try to be as close to reality as possible. All models, that's the purpose of these models. And I think all these models are very useful. That's how I think. And if the answer is yes, I don't have an yes or no in a clear manner, right? So the differences in these models must be on the account of the differences in their respective target audience. That's a possibility. Target audience is one way to look at it. Also, it depends on the maturity of people and the aspirant, and it's a different way of looking at reality. Yeah. Is this how it is? And what do the respective schools define as the prerequisites to become eligible to study them? To study them, a good maturity in life is enough. Simple maturity in life is enough. Interest in knowing something beyond what you see, touch, and feel, and an interest to find out, is there permanent happiness somewhere, and can I get there? So these kind of things are requirements, that's all. Some interest, natural interest.
Great. Rahulji, perfect. Thank you for asking. Here is the link to the course. The details to register are right there. You'll also get an email follow-up with the recording of this webinar in the next 2 days or so, with other maybe course links as well. So Rahulji, yes, thank you for that question. Amit Raoji's asking us to summarize Vishishtadvaita also, just like you summarized Advaita and Dvaita. You kind of did. Do you want to just...
Okay, let's do it in 2-3 sentences, that's it. The thing is, Vishishtadvaita says all individual selves, us, are similar, irrespective of whether we are human beings or animals or creatures of any kind, or even devatas. And the difference is in our everything came out of Brahman, and we are different when we are different after creation. And if you can find what is the true goal in life, and by doing different selfless service, devoted service, and devoted to Ishvara, that is devoted to the Creator kind of service, and understand knowledge, that is understand self properly, understand who we are, realize who we are through Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, and then through devotion, you can attain Brahman. You will become similar to Brahman once you attain Brahman. And you require the grace of that Brahman in every phase. And sometimes the grace can be obtained by a total surrender, which is simpler. So this is a summary of Vishishtadvaita in a way, but there's a lot more details hidden.
Great. A whole course worth of details and then some, right?
Yeah.
Trish is asking if we need to take this course before we want to learn the Gita or other scriptures to get maximum understanding. Can we enroll and just learn the course self-paced? And maybe that whole idea of the order of operations, what scriptures and shastras, and if there's a primacy, and just your thoughts on that.
See, this course does not require any textbook initially. We will deal with it from a conceptual point of view and introduce specific statements from the Prasthana Trayas to support our views and to support that this is exactly what Advaita says according to Shankaracharya. And in this course, we will restrict ourselves mostly to the textbooks and works of the major acharyas, that is Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, and Ramanujacharya. And we may not take a lot of other details down below. There is more recent authors and all those things we may not take. We won't have time to do that. So we will focus a lot on the primary acharyas who are the pioneer acharyas of these systems.
Since all matter is made of atoms, living and non-living, so protons, neutrons, and electrons form the basis of living and non-living matter. Is this described in Vedanta, and is this Advaita, different manifestations from these three particles?
So the thing is, all matter is definitely atoms, living and non-living. So protons, neutrons, and some electrons form the basis of living and non-living matter. Is there beyond these, is the question, right? Is Atma or consciousness different? See, this is a very powerful question. Is all consciousness coming from atoms? This is a question. This is what is, if you look at, go Google or search for the hard problem of consciousness. Was consciousness created from matter or material body, or was consciousness there all along, and from consciousness all matter came out? So this is a fundamental problem of Vedanta and science. And believe it or not, even scientists in some kind of, scientists have probably 27 views on this. When pantheism, or it's not pantheism or panentheism, or I'm forgetting the particular term there. That some scientists believe that, like gravity, consciousness is always there, and it is like undeniable thing. It doesn't come out of matter, but it's always there. So some people think differently. So we will discuss all these things from the systems of thought. Okay, we will discuss all these things.
Great. And we get a couple questions on the age for this course. I think this is a pretty, like you're saying, maturity, kind of a high level course, where Hindu University of America does have specific courses like exploring Hinduism for teens and parents, more appropriate for young people. But Krishnaji, what's the youngest you think you had in this course, and maybe your thoughts on maturity and age as it applies to your course?
The thing is, I've totally taught over 1 year 4 courses and about 80 students so far, 85 students so far. And youngest would be probably, I remember, whoever I remember, more like a graduate level person or like an undergrad, grad level person, type of age, actually. That's the range, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. And again, Hindu University of America, this next quarter, we're gonna have like 35, 40 courses, range of subjects. So if we have different levels of courses for different interests and audiences as well. So please do look at our whole course catalog. That was an anonymous question, and somebody else also asked that. Naveen, she's asking, do we need to read any books to get better for this course when we are new to this course? And I think you've said already, there's no particular reading required, but if you want to.
If you want to read, there are a number of books. You can even go search for Advaita, Advaita, and Vishishtadvaita and see there are simple courses, simple books. Most books are very complex. It's very hard. See, for example, I just want to give you my personal view, right? When I started studying philosophy, I never read books. I luckily got some really great teachers helping me, powerful teachers. When I was 19, my grandfather's brother was like an expert and an authority on Vedanta. All I had to do is, get my cycle to his home and sit down and talk to him for 3 hours. I never read any book, never looked at books. And it was easier that way. And it was much more interactive. To study a book, it cannot be interactive, right? You cannot put a question to it and the different chapters of the book won't come and answer your questions, right? So studying from books is very difficult and laborious. But if you like it, it gives a, that doesn't mean that I never study books. I started studying books after I learned from somebody.
I don't know, final papers, Longo, access to final papers. Maybe Krishnaji, if you're having people do papers, we can get them published as blogs and get them out there if they meet a certain criteria. That'd be nice. I'm just gonna take that. And will there be practices for a direct experience, or is it just kind of a conceptual discussion type of course?
This Kundanji asked difficult questions.
It's gonna be a good student for you.
See, practices are direct experience. We will talk about it. But the thing is, if you're asking me, Krishnaji, if I take this course at the end of 3 months, will I be able to realize Brahman, self, and everything? The answer is, I don't know. Because you may be an advanced student who can get a direct experience right away. But this topic is more like theoretical and conceptual at this point. Because if you're asking for direct experience, they are more yoga courses. Yoga is not like physical exercise kind of yoga. Yoga is more like spiritual yoga. And that is a separate set of courses. But this will give you a lot of knowledge to access the right type of yoga, right type of direct experience if you want to go further.
Address for HUA in the chat, and I'll put mine as well if you have any questions or other stuff. So please reach out to us. And do we have another question from Samujwal? Do you see that, Krishnaji?
Yeah, science cannot define consciousness. Consciousness has not been related anything material, atoms, electrons. Science still does not understand the thinking in the electrochemical system called body. No theories either. Thus, can we say that all these 3 systems are theories? Good question. It's not true. So let me tell you how these 3 theories function in a way. Their source material is the Vedas and other things which come along with Vedas. And Vedas basically are the experiences of rishis. Okay. So what the rishis did was they realized that experience using senses or mind will not give us permanent happiness. So to get permanent happiness, they have to go to a different state called the fourth state of the Turiyavastha. That is different from the wake, dream, and deep sleep states. And they perfected the art of meditation where they could go to the fourth state and see truth as it is. When they realized truth, they wrote them down or they transfer to the next generation, and they are the Vedas. Initially, that transfer from one to one were directly through silence, like the Dakshinamurti kind of silence, or directly they could, initiate people to understand the serious experiences. And so these are all experience-based. And so the whole of Vedanta is from the ideas of the rishis. And these acharyas formulated the thoughts into systematized way of looking at things. Hope this answers to your question.
Wonderful, wonderful. We had about 70 people fill out our survey. Thank you. We have about 90 people, 85 people still on with us. But I think that was the last hanging question. Yeah. So again, if we put it in the chat box, I try to get to your questions. I'm not going to be able to find them all right now. Hopefully we did a good job of answering your questions. Krishnaji, always a pleasure having you on. Just the depth, right? Advaita, Davita Vishishtadvaita, like such huge concepts. I had no idea about any of it, right? Just a few years ago, but just engaging with you and having these conversations and hearing you answer other people's questions, beautiful. And I think a lot of people appreciated your presentation today, Krishnaji. Maybe some closing thoughts, and appreciate you as always.
Closing thoughts. What I feel is, see, Vedanta has always interested me forever, right? You look at so many experiences in your life, you think that everything is working out and some things don't work out the way you want. And even if they work out, you're unhappy. So trying to find permanent happiness is, I think, natural to everybody. And trying to find out what these earlier rishis, who are the scientists of consciousness, scientists of creation, consciousness, moksha, and all these different things which they experimented. So this Vedanta is not just theory, it is science. It is experimentation. They did so much of yoga and meditation to understand all these things. To really come out and understand the essence of all these in a coursework would be very valuable. That's what I feel. And I'm enjoying this coursework as much because I learn a lot from interacting with people. They come up with new questions and which make me think again and again and talk to other acharyas to learn more. So this is like a, learning and communicating type of atmosphere. I thank Hindu University of America for making this happen. It's so hard to bring value to people when they want to introduce subjects which are spiritual in nature or non-material in nature. So they're doing a great job. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad.
Thank you.